that are built into the body, both to induce stress and to turn it off. The good news is that science has provided a lot of insights into how we can manage stress. So today we're going to cover some of the science, as well as get into some practical tools. Perhaps one of the most important things that our nervous system does is to control our level of what we call arousal, which is our level of alertness versus our level of calmness. And this is extremely important because our level of alertness and our level of calmness determine what we can sense, how we think, what we perceive, how we act. These three states at the top, states of panic, states of being very stressed, or states of being stressed, are not optimal for most activities and sense of well-being. They are not great for human interactions. They're not great for performing work. Yes, they are great if you're running to catch a plane that's leaving, or you need to deploy a lot of resources in your body and move very quickly, but they feel unpleasant. They bias us toward impulsive action, not thoughtful, nuanced action, and actions include things that we say. They can impair immunity if we're in those states for too long, and across every mental and physical health problem. And so an ability to take ourselves out of these states is really about reducing our level of alertness and entering states of more calm. Just to really illustrate how much this system can do and how powerfully it controls our life experience, how we see and thus react to the world hinges on our level of alertness versus calmness. Here's a little video of a household kitty cat just looking around, and when it sees something, this is a looping video, that it likes, its pupils dilate. And this actually happens to you and to me and to all of us as our level of alertness goes up, simply because we see something that salient to us or feels like it has some importance for whatever reason, positive or negative. And just to illustrate what that does to our worldview, literally, in a stress situation, you can see this on the left, our pupil dilates. There's some changes to the optics of the eye such that we see a tree in this forest as the only thing in that forest. Everything else becomes blurry, literally like portrait mode on your phone. When we're calm, the pupil constricts, there's some changes in the optics of the eye, and we can see the full picture. This is also true for our auditory system. We tend to have tunnel vision when we are stressed, and we have tunnel hearing. When we're relaxed, we're in a position to take in more information. And for reasons that we don't have time to get into now, we actually can process information much faster in the calm state, provided we're not too calm. Because in most cases, bigger neurons, which can transmit information more quickly for biophysical reasons, become the ones that are active in the calm state. So to transition to tools for combating stress, how can we control our level of alertness using breathing? This is a beautiful MRI, not from my lab, of the diaphragm, the skeletal muscle that lies below our heart and moves our lungs. So it's a very direct and simple and important relationship between how we breathe and our level of alertness and calmness. If you watch the diaphragm moves up and down. And what this means, when we inhale, our diaphragm moves down because the lungs expand, which creates more space for our heart. Blood flows a little bit more slowly through the heart, and then the brain sends a signal to speed up our heart rate. The simple way to translate this is, if you want your heart rate to increase, if you want to be more alert, you should inhale more and longer than you exhale. Now that immediately says that for somebody that's stressed, the last thing you want to tell them is to take a deep breath. The other thing you don't want to tell them is to calm down, because it's very hard to control the mind with the mind. What we're about to talk about is using the mind to control the body, and then the body to control the mind, and then to take control of the reciprocal relationship between the two. So if you want to be more alert, inhale more than you exhale, both deeper and longer, for this simple and basic relationship between the movement of the diaphragm, the lungs, the heart, and neural signals from the brain. The opposite is also true. When we exhale, our diaphragm moves up in our body cavity. That creates less space for the heart. Blood flows more quickly through the heart, and the brain sends a signal to slow down heart rate. So if you want to relax, extend your exhales relative to your inhales, and make the exhales, it's sort of hard to think about making exhales deeper, but extend them. The other thing that is a very useful tool besides just remembering inhales make me more alert and exhales make me calmer, is this notion of physiological size. Physiological size are a pattern of breathing that all animals, including humans, engage in spontaneously when carbon dioxide gets too high in our system. Our trigger to breathe, and a big aspect of the stress response, is not getting enough oxygen and having too much carbon dioxide build up in our bloodstream and lungs. So there's a pattern of breathing that we all do in sleep and in conditions of claustrophobia that looks like this. It's inhale, inhale, then exhale. Inhale, inhale, then exhale. And what this does is it maximally inflates these little sacs in the lungs. Our lungs aren't two big bags of air. Our lungs are actually millions of little sacs that allow us a big increase in the surface area of our lungs. You'll see the blood vessels innervate these little sacs. And when we do a double inhale followed by an exhale, we maximally offload the carbon dioxide. Now, this isn't some hack or trick. Animals and we do this in sleep. We do it in claustrophobic environments. And you'll see that children and adults do this after sobbing when they need to catch their breath. So inhale, inhale, exhale equals maximum offload of CO2. So we're interested in meditation versus specific breathing protocols. I just want to mention, this is a somewhat complicated graph, but what we're quite happy about is that when we've assessed the subjects in this study, almost all of them say that it's very easy to do this protocol, which is only 5 minutes a day of a particular either meditation or breathing practice. I'll talk about each one and I'll share some data. Only a very small percentage said that a particular breathing protocol, slow breathing, was very difficult for them. A few said it was neither easy nor difficult. Many said it was somewhat easy, but most people said it was very easy to do this. So 5 minutes a day. The goal is to reset or establish your relationship to autonomic arousal such that when stressors come in, because we can't control people's life events throughout their day and their life, as those stressful events come in, they're able to better buffer the stress response. They're able to feel more in control of their physiology, et cetera. And we are looking at subjective outcomes as well. These are very early preliminary data. First of all, meditation. When we look at average heart rate, and this is one particular subject, very preliminary data. Yellow is before, red is during, and blue is after the particular meditation protocol, which is 5 minutes a day of mindfulness meditation, eyes closed, sort of typical sitting third eye meditation, if you will. We find is that their heart rate, quite variable. There's across 28 days. There's a slight drop during the meditation, but it rebounds back to where it was prior to meditation when they exit the meditation. We have a pattern of cyclic or physiological sighing, also called slow breathing. So this is people doing double inhale, exhale for 5 minutes a day of dedicated practice, which we track. And this is very interesting because you'll notice that the pattern of heart rate is very rhythmic, both entering and during and after the cyclic physiological sighing, aka slow breathing protocol. And this is strikingly different. We also have a protocol that involves deliberate hyperventilation, which is inhale, exhale, very rapidly, hyperventilating, and then emptying the lungs, discarding all the carbon dioxide, and sitting with lungs empty for a brief period of time, and then repeating for 5 minutes a day. So you'll notice that the heart rate shoots up dramatically during this hyperventilation, which it shouldn't surprise you now, right? Because you know that a lot of inhales are going to promote faster heart rate. And then afterward, there's a decrease. And what's striking here is how regular, this is across 28 days, how tight the data are, how these dots overlay one another so tightly is very interesting. And we're exploring whether or not this allows people to buffer the stress response. This is sort of self-induced stress inoculation. When people self-induce stress, it can teach them to teach themselves, and their nervous system is really what we're referring to be comfortable in uncomfortable states. We hear about resilience, grit, and mental toughness, but what is that really? Well, we hear about being comfortable being uncomfortable. And then we also have a category of what's called box breathing, which involves inhale, hold, exhale, hold for 5 minute duration. And that seems to lead to increases, surprisingly, at least to us in this subject, in heart rate, but then a decrease in average heart rate post-protocol. So we're exploring these protocols. We're trying to find the minimal effective dose. Just 5 minutes a day of something that's purely mechanical. A lot of people struggle with meditation because they don't know if they're doing it correctly. They don't know if they're accessing the states that they should be. Right now, the question is, what is the minimal effective and maximal impact protocol that we can provide people? And also the variability across people is going to be very important. Some people may not like to be in this state of heightened heart rate, so much so that it might be better for them to engage in, say, this pattern of breathing or this pattern of breathing for 5 minutes a day. So we'd like to create a suite of tools that are cost-free, very accessible. You can imagine anyone